With Secret Outlast, you can go for a jog and smell like you didn't. With Secret Outlast, you can go for a jog in the middle of August and smell like you didn't. With Secret Outlast, you can go for a jog in the middle of August and accidentally finish first in a fun run.
We have a new winner!
And smell like you didn't. With Secret Outlast, you can do anything life throws your way and smell like you didn't. Secret provides 72-hour odor protection. Available in sticks or sprays. Secret works.
Local news, national news, even feel-good news, delivering the topics that are relevant to you.
That's why I listen to Joe. He covers it all.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
All right, y'all gonna love this. I went and checked my mail a little while ago, and I found there was a package in the mail, and there was no return address on it, and it was just labeled to WDBO. And I opened it, and it was a letter which I did not read, and inside was an unsolicited thumb drive. In what world do people think that it's okay to send an unsolicited thumb drive to anybody, anywhere, ever? I mean, I am stunned, Paul Cross, that someone would send me a thumb drive thinking, oh, let me just plug this into my computer and find out what's on it.
Yeah, no, obviously you need to plug it into every computer you can find.
Every computer, right.
What could possibly go wrong?
All it says is vanilla ice on it. So I knew you'd open it. I knew you'd put it in there.
Yes, absolutely so. I definitely would want to see that. All right, I'm going to start off with terrifying audio here for you. So in Zambia, I'm just going to assume that's somewhere in Africa. In Zambia, you know, they have these safari tours, and the safari tours in Africa are not like the safari tour at Animal Kingdom. You know, at Animal Kingdom, you're pretty safe from the animals. Laurel, you're our theme parks aficionado. You've been on the safari ride at Animal Kingdom, and there's real animals there and dangerous animals there.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and you get pretty darn close.
But they're at the Kafu National Park in Lufupa Lodge during a safari, and they're in a large truck, and as they're on this safari, they see a bull elephant off in the distance, and the elephant is making its way towards the truck, and the truck is speeding up to try to get away from the elephant.
Oh my goodness.
And then for some inexplicable reason, the driver of the truck decides to stop. I don't know if there was an obstruction in the road ahead or if they wanted to let the elephant get a little bit closer, but stopping the vehicle was definitely a bad idea. They're yelling at the elephant. Now the elephant is flipping the vehicle upside down. Everybody in the vehicle is tossed out of it, and then the elephant appears to flip it a second time. This is it's remarkable video, and it shows you the brute strength and danger of messing with elephants. And I regret to tell you that somebody died in that incident. An American tourist died, and 2 others were injured. I saw the movie Jurassic Park. I know how these things go, and I would be willing to bet that somebody is going to be facing a lawsuit for stopping the vehicle in the middle of Jurassic Park. You don't stop the vehicle in the middle of the park, and now an American is dead.
The audio I thought you were going to play, because it was making rounds last week, was very similar. Safari in Africa, a bull elephant comes up on the Jeep, and it tosses the Jeep up, but it doesn't flip it, and the Jeep's able to run away and get away. So apparently this isn't too uncommon. If this is the second time in 3 weeks we've seen video of these elephants, you know, ramming and flipping these Jeeps.
And I suppose I understand that the tour guides want to make sure that the tourists have a good time. But I mean, there's a reason why they're called wild animals. They're wild animals. I just sent a push with that video. If you subscribe to our breaking news alerts, I just sent a push on it. If you want to see the video for yourself, I will say that there is no gore. There is no gore in the video. So you do, even though I think some of the tourists were gored, there is no gore in that video. Otherwise, I would not have posted it. There's no blood. There's no guts. Nothing like that. Presumably, the elephant is okay. But the one tourist is dead. 2 others are injured. Now, that having been said, I'm going to ask you the question that I oft ask you. Do you want to hear a gross story?
Always.
Paul Cross, what about you?
This is where I check out.
You do not want to hear a gross story.
No, but you're going to do it anyway.
Not necessarily.
It's the Joe Kelley Show.
Greg Rhodes, what about you? Do you want to hear a gross story?
Yeah, I'm usually pretty game for that stuff. So
Okay.
let's hear the gross story.
Here's the deal. Whenever I do a gross story, invariably 1 or 2 or 3 kind people will either call me or leave me an open mic, and they'll say, Joe, that's beneath you. You shouldn't be sharing those kinds of grotesque stories on the radio. You're better than that. And it's given me pause. It made me think, gosh, maybe I am better than that. Maybe I'm not better than that. Maybe I am that. Maybe gross is me. Maybe I am gross.
Embrace the gross.
Embrace the gross, right? So I'm going to give it to you, our WDBO listeners. So instead of asking Laurel and Paul and Greg, my dear friends who are listening to the radio at this hour, I am asking you, do you want to hear a gross story? Okay? So let me know now, 844-580-WDBO, or hit me up in the open mic in the WDBO app. I will take, say, the first 10, because we're bad at math, I will take the first 10 responses so that we can come up with an average pretty easily. And if we get more than 50% of people saying they want to hear a gross story, I will then share a gross story with you. My wife, I will tell you, sweet Ronnie Sue just texted me with no exclamation point. And then, I don't know, the emoji with the green face. Is that like the vomit face emoji?
Yeah, nauseous.
Yeah, so Ronnie she's not DTG.
That's a conflicting text then, because, I mean, that's a gross emoji. So
it's almost like she's asking for something gross. Yeah, but she's generally DTG. She's not down to gross. So if you are DTG, let me know right now using the open mic in the WDBO app, and we'll add up the vote tally, and potentially we'll have the really gross story then coming up, say at 5:35 if it gets enough votes. If it doesn't get enough votes, you will never know the depravity of the humans that might be living right next door to you. And honestly, that is the reason why I like to share gross stories. When I read stories about human depravity, when I read stories about just how evil a human being can be, I think it's important. I think there is genuine value in sharing that. I don't just share it just to be gross. I share it because I think there's genuine value in knowing that this level of human depravity exists. Oh, that sound means it's time for the Joe Kelley Presidential Pinger. We have LoJack each of the presidential candidates, and we track them as they make their way around the United States. We call it the Joe Kelley Presidential Pinger. All right, so we don't have any big primary days left after yesterday, so we just have a few states that are going to vote here and there through June. Nobody cares. Even the people that live in those states, they don't care at this point. The decisions have already been made. The Republican convention is going to be in Milwaukee in the middle of July. The Democratic convention is going to be in the middle of August. That'll be in Chicago. We're 216 days away from the general election. A poll, get this, a poll of the election's main battleground shows that Donald Trump has leads between 2 to 8 percentage points in 6 states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina. That is on a test ballot that includes third-party and independent candidates. Trump holds similar leads when voters are asked to choose only between him and Biden. Meanwhile, Trump's campaign and affiliated groups announced on Wednesday they brought in more than $65.6 million in fundraising during the month of March. Trump's fundraising apparatus, which has been lagging behind Joe Biden's, also announced a whopping $93.1 million cash on hand going into April. Now, Donald Trump, while he was in Grand Rapids, Michigan this week, had this to say about a woman that was murdered in Grand Rapids by an illegal immigrant.
Animals, they're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
So that's the cut that you're going to hear in the media. That's the cut that everybody everywhere is playing, saying that Donald Trump is calling illegal immigrants animals. Here's the full context of what Donald Trump said.
The 22-year-old nursing student in Georgia who was barbarically murdered by an illegal alien animal The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals. And Nancy Pelosi told me that. She said, please don't use the word animal, sir, when you're talking about these people. I said, I'll use the word animal because that's what they are. I'll never forget my vow to her.
It's all about context, 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 context. And to give you an example, again, so that's the full context. Here is the shorter clip that the media is playing.
Animals, they're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
So CNN's Wolf Blitzer tried to play that game, and he tried to sneak a fast one on a guy named Scott Jennings. Scott Jennings is a former special assistant to George W. Bush. Here's Wolf Blitzer posing that audio cut to Scott Jennings.
When he says these immigrants are animals, they're not humans, what does that suggest? I mean, isn't that brutal? Shouldn't people be condemning that?
I listened to the entire tape. He was specifically talking about the person who murdered Laken Riley in Georgia. And to be honest with you, Wolf, if somebody murders another human being, I think they deserve to be called animals. And I don't think any American is really going to reject that kind of rhetoric. That poor girl was murdered in cold blood. Is that person who did it not an animal? I think that's an apt term.
That is not the answer that Wolf Blitzer was looking for, to be sure. This is former President Trump calls for a mandatory death sentence for cop killers in the wake of the murder of NYPD officer Jonathan Diller. What do you guys think about that? Should there be an automatic death sentence for anybody who would shoot at a cop or kill a cop, I should say? Let us know now. You can call 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326, or you can use the open mic in the WDBO app. And finally here, Donald Trump said something else that I find to be troubling.
Because if we don't win on November 5th, I think our country is going to cease to exist. It could be the last election we ever have. I actually mean that. We don't win. I think this could be the last election we ever have. That's where our country's going.
That is such utter balderdash and hyperbole and nonsense. Now, to be clear, Donald Trump is not the only one saying that this election is going to be the end of democracy if the other people win.
But if you don't want to be for him on the merits the way I am, be for him because the alternative could end our democracy. And I don't say that lightly.
He's willing to sacrifice our democracy.
I am sick to hear. Look closely at your radio. You'll see where I'm pointing. I am sick to hear of hearing politicians saying that this is the most important election ever, that this election could mean the end of democracy. In no possible way is this election going to spell the demise of democracy, no matter who wins. Period. Full stop. If you think otherwise, I'd love to hear from you. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Do you think that democracy is going to be on the ballot in November? Just saying that sentence, democracy on the ballot, because it wouldn't be on a ballot if we're going to lose democracy. We're not going to have it on a ballot. Do you think that democracy is on the ballot coming up in November?
Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here.
All right, and let us know if you want to hear something gross, if you want to hear a gross story. We know Laurel's down. We know Greg's down. We know Paul Cross is not down. And we know Sweet Ronnie Sue is not down. So let us know if you're down for a gross story of human depravity. We'll have it for you coming up if enough people want to hear it. If enough, otherwise I'll just leave it out. I'll just throw it away and do whatever. Coming up next, all the stories that you missed while you were at the office today. As they like to say, don't nobody go nowhere.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk.
I hate that whole democracy is on the ballot
I doubt any politician is sitting there saying, I'm going to take away their right to vote as long as they vote for me.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Right. So Biden and Clinton and Trump are all saying that depending on who you vote for, democracy is on the line. And I just find that to be absolute hogwash, balderdash, poppycock, whatever you want to call it. It's ridiculous.
Well, you're a fool, big guy, if you don't think this could be the last election, the way this government is being run. You better think about those words again.
Okay, hang on. Let me think about this again. Yeah, no, I've come to the same conclusion. There is no way that democracy is on the line in this November's election. We have a United States military that is going to follow the direction of whoever the commander-in-chief is. Whoever the duly inaugurated commander-in-chief is, that's who they're going to follow. I don't for a second, I am not so simple-minded to think that our country is so fragile that it is going to fall apart in one presidential election. I don't have that kind of fragility.
From your office to ours, we're breaking down today's big stories. Here's what you missed while you were at work.
Taiwanese authorities say that 70 miners are trapped. By the way, that's miners, not miners. 70 miners are trapped in 2 coal mines after a powerful earthquake rocked the island. The bodies of the 6 World Central Kitchen aid workers killed in Israeli strikes have been transported out of Gaza into Egypt, we're told. 2 investors plead guilty today to insider trading scheme linked to Trump media deal that brought the former president's social media business public. Disney defeats Nelson Peltz after a bruising proxy fight, handing CEO Bob Iger a victory over one of Wall Street's most aggressive investors that had a different idea for what to do with Disney and in what direction to take Disney. Also asking the very, very important question as to whether or not you're DTG. That is down to gross. If you want to hear a gross story, I'm leaving it up to you guys. All right, because every time if I ever do a gross story, y'all are like, "Oh, Joe, you're better than that," and I was like, "I'm not. I promise you, I'm not better than that." And so I'm going to leave it up to you guys. What has the consensus been, by the way, Laurel, in the chat group here? I've seen some people weighing in the chat group.
Yeah, I think we had 3 yeses and 1 no.
Okay. All right, so if you want to join the chat group and be able to see what we look like, and we've got cameras here in front of all of us. Hang on, I've got to read this. Joe, you're acting really naively in regards to Donald Trump's comment about elections ceasing to exist if he loses the election. I don't know what you think the Democrats are currently doing, but it's a sure bet that they are attempting to take over the country so that the government becomes one-party rule. The Dems do not want any challengers, which is why they're attempting to jail Trump and keep RFK off of the current ballot. Not for a second do I have a concern about that. I don't lose a moment of sleep about that. Do I believe that Democrat operatives are up to shenanigans? Yes, I absolutely believe the Democratic operatives are up to shenanigans. Do I believe that enough Americans are armed to the teeth and have read survey after survey that have indicated that Americans are willing to take up arms in defense of the government? Yes, absolutely so. I'm sorry. I have more faith in this nation. I have more faith in our people than I do to go down this dark path with you guys. I am absolutely not buying into it. I don't believe it. I have no fears whatsoever that this is going to be a make it or break it election for the future of the United States of America. 844-580-WDBO. You can hit us up on the open mic in the WDBO app. Let me know your thoughts. Also still counting the DTG votes, and I'll let you know whether or not we're going to have that gross story coming up. Stay with us here on the Joe Kelley Show.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Connected to our community. Talk local issues and events with Joe Kelley. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let Joe know what interests you. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Give us the gross.
All right, put you down. 1 vote for gross. Got it.
Absolutely yes.
All right, so yes, another vote for you want to hear the gross story.
No.
No. All right, so what is it, like 2-1 now? By the way, all right, so our WDBO chat group, if you go to the WDBO Facebook page, we've got live video. So we're not only radio on the radio, we're radio on the streaming, we're radio in podcast form, but we're also radio as in on video. And you can see the video in the WDBO, it's on the WDBO Facebook page. And I see a comment here from Joshua, and he says, hey, first time hearing about this Eric Erickson thing. Is this the first time he's doing something here? Well, two thoughts. No, it's not the first time he's been to Orlando. He's done a thing with us previously in our Stanley Steamer Performance Studio. And with regards to the first time you're hearing about the Eric Erickson thing, it's the first time we've talked about the Eric Erickson thing. It actually just got finalized this afternoon. I mean, like you can still smell the fresh ink on the memo. This is so. If you don't know about this, coming up Thursday, April 18th, that'll be just a couple of days after the tax filing deadline at 6 p.m. at Wekiva Island. We're going to be hosting Pints and Politics with Eric Erickson. It's completely free. It is open to everyone. You got to be 21 and older, though. Now, if you want to be a VIP attendee, if you want to be on the VIP side, totally free still, but you need to go into the WDBO app, look for the Pints and Politics button, click on that, and then just sign up to be a VIP. And with VIP, you'll get all kinds of fancy things, like you can stand closer to Eric Erickson than the other people who aren't VIPs.
You could tell what kind of cologne Eric Erickson wears.
Right. You can discuss his hair product and his new pizza oven and Omaha steaks and stuff like that. Again, just tap the Eric Erickson Pints and Politics button. It's in the WDBO app, and you'll be able to find out more information there. I want to say there was another. Oh, and then let's see. Frank asked, is this weekend still Fiesta in the Park? Yes. This weekend is still the Fiesta. Is it the fall or spring Fiesta in the Park? I get my fall and spring mixed up.
Well, it is springtime.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I get my spring and fall time mixed up. So the spring Fiesta in the Park is this weekend. For what it's worth, FWIW, I will be there at Spring Fiesta in the Park on the main stage Saturday morning. Oh, I already forgot the time. Like between 10 and 11 a.m. or something like that. So I'll be out there, and if there is a WDBO tent, which I'm told there will be, I will be at the WDBO tent as well. So if you want to come by and say hi, I would love to get a chance to meet you, and that is going to be Saturday out there. But the event takes place both Saturday and Sunday. And honestly, the weather this weekend is supposed to be really, really nice. So it should be really nice to get out this weekend to go down to Lake Eola Park. If you're new to Orlando, you don't know where it is, you don't know what it is. It's just a wonderful little fiesta, seasonal fiesta. We do it twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. And it is out there at Lake Eola Park, and it is wonderful. They've got the whole bird flu thing figured out down there at the park. The birds aren't dying anymore at Lake Eola, which is good. So you don't have to worry as much about catching bird. I should stop talking about bird flu.
As much. You don't have to worry as much.
You know what? We'll just edit all that out in post. That's probably a bad idea to be talking about that. So just forget everything I just said about bird flu in Lake Eola Park. Come join us for Spring Fiesta in the Park. It's this weekend. You'll have a lot of fun, I promise. All right. Do you want to hear a gross story or not?
Hey, Joe, I listen to you every day. I think it's okay to share a gross story on the radio as long as you give us advance notice.
Okay, that's fair.
So that we can turn the radio down.
Well, don't do that.
That's what I always do when you say, do you want to hear a gross story?
Yeah, don't.
I just mute my radio and come back like 5 minutes later.
No, don't do that. We don't know.
Go for it. I want to hear the gross story.
Okay, hang on. We're still counting up votes. So let me share another story with you. This, for the record. Oh, hang on. I got something else that I need to share with you. I got this open mic.
Hey, it's the armchair quarterback. I heard that I was in the promo today. I want my 5 cents. Royalties. I'm totally kidding.
You did make the promo.
You don't want to miss the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Law enforcement officers know what they're signing up for, and they train relentlessly for this.
Mr. Armchair Quarterback, huh?
I don't know if you know this, but we talk about every event after it happens. Last week, there was this ship, and it ran into a bridge. We didn't talk about it before it hit the bridge. We talked about it after.
And shame on us.
The Joe Kelley Show, weekday afternoons at 5 on WDBO.
So thank you for that open mic. Now it's like Inception. It's like a promo inside a promo. If we made a promo out of this promo, then it would be an Inception promo.
Is that how I get paid for promos, is leaving an open mic and say I should get 5 cents for promos?
Yes, that's exactly how it works. Now, we those in the biz, those are called SOS. That is slice of show. So that's a slice of show promo. So we take a 25-second clip, 20-second clip of tonight's show, and we put it inside a donut. Regrettably, it's not the kind of delicious, sweet, cream-filled donuts. It's an audio donut where there's a thing at the beginning and a thing at the end, and it's empty in the middle, and we place that audio into the middle of the donut, and we have a promo. So if you have anything...
Do people know how difficult it is to take only 25 seconds of this absolutely magnificent program?
Every day, it's my biggest challenge every day. How do I identify only 25 seconds to put in the promo? We should put the whole show in the promo. Okay, so here is not the gross story. This is just a different story. And this is a heartbreaking story. So in the Netherlands, they have legalized euthanasia for pretty much any reason. And this is sad. A physically healthy 28-year-old Dutch woman has decided to legally end her life due to her struggles with depression, autism, and borderline personality disorder. She doesn't have any kind of physical ailments. She lives in a small village in the Netherlands near the German border. She's scheduled to be euthanized next month, despite being in love with her 40-year-old boyfriend and living with 2 cats. Her name is, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, Zoraya Terbeek. Yeah, I guess I could. She once aspired to be a psychiatrist. She's been dealing with mental health struggles throughout her whole life. She said she decided to be euthanized after doctors told her, there's nothing more we can do for you. It's never going to get any better. Really? Doctors say that? Can a doctor say that to someone? We've all seen psychiatrists before, right? I mean, I can't, right? No? Is it just me? It's just me. Okay. I've all seen a psychiatrist before. I mean, I can't imagine a psychiatrist saying, that's as good as it's going to get. It's not going to get any better than where you are right now.
What terrible. Country was this?
It's in the Netherlands.
Netherlands, okay.
I mean, Note
to self, if I have any mental issues, don't go to the Netherlands.
Well, the Dutch.
There are only 2 things I can't stand in this world. People who are intolerant of other people's cultures, and the Dutch.
What? So sad that this woman is going to be allowed to kill herself. I mean, I would like to fly to the Netherlands now just to see if I can help her. Not that I have anything special to offer, but it seems like such a terrible, terrible waste. She's 28 years old, and they're allowing her. They've already got it all set up. It's going to be on her couch. She'll have her boyfriend by her side. Her 2 cats are going to be there. She already has given instructions as to how she's to be disposed of. And the amount of euthanasias in the Netherlands, in 2022, there were 8,700, representing roughly 5% of the country's deaths. 5% of Netherlands' deaths are euthanasia. Now, I wonder how that ranks compared to just regular garden variety suicide. I mean, I wonder will someone Google that and find out what the death rate in the United States is for suicide? Because euthanasia is just a doctor-assisted suicide. That is just terrible. In fact, in February, the 93-year-old former Dutch prime minister and his wife both died hand in hand in euthanasia. They were 93 years old. I'd say at least they were 93. This woman's 28, but at least they're 93. That still doesn't make a difference to me. I think that it's just terrible that the state permits this. The state authorizes this. What do you guys think? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. We'll get your calls and comments coming up straight ahead. Stand by. We will probably have that gross story coming up as well here on the Joe Kelley Show.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. For 100 years, we've been your voice, your source, your heartbeat. From the roaring 20s to the digital age, we've been there for it all. Happy 100th anniversary, WDBO, where history and headlines meet.
By the way, I stepped out of the room during the break there, and I might have missed this. Laurel, while I was away, did you say Kentucky? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, well, I fixed it afterwards, but I started with Kentucky.
Kentucky?
Yeah.
And what happened in Kentucky? Is that where the storms hit?
No, some dude killed some other dude during Easter brunch. Yeah, big old mess.
Well,
but he was found in Kentucky.
I will never want to visit Kentucky, I'll tell you that right now. All right, hey, open mic here.
Hey, here's an idea. Let's send Biden and most of the Democrats up there to the Netherlands.
Well, you're right. That is an idea. We're still trying to figure out if you guys are DTG, by the way.
Go, DTG.
All right, so we're going to count you as a yes then.
Hey, Joe. I am definitely not DTG.
Okay.
But my vote would be for you to still tell the story.
Okay.
Because all you need to do is warn someone, hey, what's coming up is gross. And then they can turn the radio down for a minute or two.
All right. So, all right, I got it. Okay. Let's see. I'm just checking other.
Hey, Joe, go ahead and tell that gross story you were talking about. Yeah, it's going to take a lot to get me to go over the edge. So go for it.
All right. So it seems as if the consensus is that we're going to hear the gross story. Is that a fair assessment? Am I counting the votes accurately here? It seems like the majority of people are saying that they are DTG and they want to hear something gross. And Laurel, I will tell you, I am conflicted as to how you're going to feel about this story.
Uh-oh.
Because it deals with something that you absolutely hate.
Is it monkeys?
Mm-hmm.
I hate monkeys.
See how well I know her? So Laurel hates monkeys. I mean, the only thing she hates more than monkeys are robotic dogs.
Yes.
And it's a close, I mean, if there ever became a monkey riding a robotic dog, that would be like the third level of hell for you.
Yeah, that's going to haunt my nightmares because you said it. So thanks.
So this does deal with...
Is there a way that we can tell AI to make a monkey ride a robotic dog?
Why?
Okay.
Please hold. I'll have that done. I'll have that done before we return in the 6 o'clock hour.
No.
Believe you me. Unless any of our management is listening, we have been forbidden from creating any AI imagery. So if management is listening, no, I will absolutely not do that. Not in a million years would I ever think about doing. That's crazy talk, Paul. Sheesh. Yes, I'll do it.
Right, blame it on Paul. That's what
I do think you were the one who said it. So hang on. I will have the gross.
Let's go back to the tape.
I will have the gross monkey story for you coming up. And would you believe this gross monkey story has nothing to do with Elon Musk? All right. He slaughtered a bunch of monkeys with his Neuralink thing. This is a different story. So hang on. We'll have it for you coming up. Stay with us here on The Joe Kelley Show.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, from the Bogan Munz & Munz WDBO Traffic Center. Auto accident? Choose Bogan Munz & Munz.
Still have that crash I-4 westbound at Princeton. The exit ramp left lanes are closed. Heavy delays I-4 westbound from Princeton onto the 408 eastbound and all the way to Conway where they have that broken down vehicle in the center lane. A crash 417 northbound before the 408. 2 left lanes are blocked. We've got a crash 436 at North Oxford Road and one on Sand Lake, at a Popka Vineland Road. ProTech Air Conditioning and Plumbing Service for honesty, integrity, and 100% customer satisfaction. Call ProTech 407-502-6263 or visit ProTechAC.com. From the WDBO Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Insightful.
You tell the truth from your point of view.
Entertaining.
Man, that guy is a lot taller than he sounds on the radio.
And engaging.
When we hear you on the radio, it's a good thing.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Hey, Joe, tell me the gross story. Tell me the gross story. Tell me the gross story!
All right, I'll tell you the gross. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a gross story. You guys ready? Laurel, Paul, Paul's not going to listen. Greg, are you ready for the gross story? Now, listen, I would just like to remind everybody why I want to share this gross story. This is a gross story because it gives you an idea of human depravity. It's gross. It is a gross story. Honestly, I've never heard of anything like this in all of my years. I've never heard of anything like this. This is something new on me. And this happened here in the United States at a home in Virginia. A Virginia man is facing 5 years in prison on animal abuse charges. He goes by the online alias of Torture King. He's 50 years old. His name is Michael McCartney. And he is the ringleader in a global monkey torture network exposed by the BBC. Now, when I saw the headline that said monkey torture, I thought, oh, there's a euphemism I don't know about. I wonder what monkey torture is. Oh, no. It's the torturing of monkeys. It is terrible and grotesque. 2 women in the UK have also been charged. 2 other American citizens have been charged with the same counts. One of whom is a 48-year-old former U.S. Air Force officer who was previously court-martialed and dismissed from the military. Another is a woman named Nicole Devilbiss. Devilbiss. She's 35. They're both also facing 5 years in prison. But the Torture King, the ringleader of the monkey torture network, is a former motorcycle gang member. Do you ever actually leave a motorcycle gang? Is there such a thing as a former motorcycle gang member? Laurel, you ride motorcycles. Can you ever actually get out of the gang, or are you just forever in the motorcycle gang?
To be clear, I'm not in a gang, so I don't really know, but probably not. I don't know. I don't hang out with gang members either.
Man. He spent time in prison, big shock there, ran several chat groups for monkey torture enthusiasts from around the world on encrypted messaging app Telegram. Monkey torture enthusiasts. 3 words I would have never imagined me saying in that order. The groups were used to share ideas for custom-made torture videos. And you know what? I'm not going to make this as gross as it is. I'm going to be a sin eater on this one. I'm going to swallow this one. I'm not going to share the torture that they did to these monkeys. It's just too much. I can't possibly share this on the radio. It is so horrific.
This is more like disturbing news rather than gross news. It's really
no. If I shared with you what they did to the monkeys, you would find it to be gross and disturbing. It is very troubling. But these are the people that live next door. So people would send ideas on what to do with monkeys, along with payments, to video makers in Indonesia, who would then carry out the instructions. So this is like OnlyFans, but for torturing monkeys. That you could give instructions. Here's what I want you to do to a monkey. Make me a video of you doing this to a monkey. And people in Indonesia would do it. The videos would depict torture, murder, and sexually sadistic mutilation of animals. Specifically juvenile and adult monkeys. This guy McCartney, the so-called Torture King, had cooperated with investigators with the Department of Homeland Security. He agreed to plead guilty to conspiracy charges. He'll formally make a plea later this month and is facing 5 years in prison. He said, "I was the man." I wonder how he said that. I'd like to know the emphasis in that sentence, "I was the man." Was it, "I was the man," or was it, "I was the man"? You know what I'm saying? I think it makes a difference. He says, "You want to see monkeys get messed up? I could bring it to you." What a terrible, terrible thing. This guy, the Torture King, said the resulting videos were the most grotesque thing I have ever seen. And yet he went on to become a key player in the monkey torture groups. There's a whole monkey torture industry. That is, the depths of human depravity know no ends. That blows my mind. All right, I'm finished talking about monkey torture. So you can turn your radios back up. I'll wait. Did you guys have dinner yet, by the way?
Yeah, I'm having monkey brains. Just like
Dude, we changed topics.
Just like in the Indiana Jones Temple of
I
Doom.
do remember that movie. That was awful.
It's a delicacy.
When they cut open the snake. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so do you want to talk about... Oh, let's talk about this. So an ESPN host, a former, her name is Sage Steele. Do you know who she is, sports guy?
Yeah, she often hosted like Sports Center, and then she would also be out on assignment for NBA games and things like that.
So she is, I guess, no longer with ESPN. I don't know that ESPN employs anybody anymore. I think they laid pretty much everybody off. Do they still have staff at ESPN?
I mean, with AI these days, it's hard to tell. So
it's bare bones at best. So she has now revealed, now that she's no longer with ESPN, evidently she interviewed Joe Biden back in 2021. And look, she interviewed him on ESPN. I get it. If you're going to interview a president or a presidential candidate on ESPN, it makes sense that you would ask sports-related questions. After all, you're on a sports network, right? Stay in your lane. So I get that Sage Steele asked Joe Biden sports-related questions. But what Sage Steele has now revealed is that the questions were given to her by members of ESPN's C-suite. Does everybody know what C-suite is? C-suite is where all the job titles that begin with C exist. The CEO, the CFO, the COO. Those are C-suite people. So ESPN's C-suite staff scripted the questions for Sage Steele to ask of Joe Biden, and she was told, you are absolutely not to deviate from this list of questions, and you are absolutely not allowed to ask any follow-ups. They reiterated it. No follow-up questions. Now, Sage Steele revealed this in a podcast this week, evidently called the Sage Steele Show. How arrogant and vain to name a show after yourself. That is... What is the matter with these people?
Oh, my gosh. They're terrible people.
Steele Show.
Well, if you have a name as cool as Sage Steele,
I doubt that's even
you might as well do it.
I doubt that's even her real name. I think she made that name up. So she says that she was not allowed to deviate from any of the questions. She says it went up to the fourth floor, the C-suites. And she says, while I cannot prove that these questions were submitted to Team Biden before I asked him, she said, I'm quite certain that he was told what the answers were. And I will tell you something interesting about her further comments. She said that her brief interaction with the oldest sitting president ever was heartbreaking, referring to Biden's mental acuity. Listen to what she said and see if this doesn't echo what I've been saying for the last couple of years. She says, I think it's really heartbreaking that the people who love Joe Biden and say they truly care about him have allowed it to get to this point. She adds, so I'm not even looking at this from a political angle or my beliefs in anything. This is the human side of it. And when somebody is struggling, we allow them to continue to be in the spotlight and put them out there in the first place when we know that there are issues. Of course, they had to know, she says. So it's a humanity thing with me, where I don't care where anyone stands and what they vote for or who they believe in. Do you really care about that person as a father, as a husband, or anything? She detailed how Joe Biden trailed off in their pre-interview chat before the taping. Evidently, they were having some technical problems. Who could imagine having technical problems in radio? They were having technical problems, and so she was able to hear Joe Biden while they were setting it up. And Biden kept saying things like, now, what is this for? And who am I talking to? Wait, what's her name? What's her name again? I mean, Biden had no clue. And I agree with her. I know that a lot of people just absolutely hate Joe Biden. Of all the feelings I have for Joe Biden, hate is not one of them. Pity and sorrow is my predominant feeling for Joe Biden. I feel sorry for that guy.
Now, to be fair, she does have some political leanings that were a big reason why she left ESPN, because they didn't align with kind of their ideals. But
she lean left or does she lean right?
She leans right.
Really?
Yeah, she was anti-vaccine mandates and questioning Barack Obama's racial identity, things like that.
Okay. Well, that is interesting, and that might explain her departure from ESPN.
Yeah, it was a big lawsuit on her way out, too.
Yeah, but I can tell you that, and I hate this for our industry. I hate that for our media, that she agreed to a scripted interview with a president or a presidential candidate. I think that's despicable. She should have walked out. She should have rejected it. And I know you're a young lady. You're starting your career. I mean, you probably don't feel empowered to say no. I can tell you that in the 28 years I've been in talk radio, nobody has ever told me what I can and cannot do. Nobody has ever said, you have to interview this person, you have to ask them these questions. Never. That has never once happened before. In fact, I can give you examples. I'll give you 2 examples of interviews that didn't happen because I refused to play that game. One was with the former Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid of Nevada. I had some pretty serious questions for Harry Reid from some of his shenanigans as Democrat leader in the Senate. And I kept trying to get him on the radio show to talk about it. And they kept saying, oh, he's not available, not available. 6 months later, they call me up and say, hey, Harry Reid wants to talk about this, that, or the other. And I said, that's fine. But I'm going to ask him these questions first. And they said, oh, that's old news. Why would you want to talk about old news? I said, because you didn't answer the questions when it was new news. I still want to ask those questions. You're not going to play this game with me. And I never spoke to Harry Reid ever again, ever. And more recently, and this was last year before last, Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer was making the rounds here in our building to all of our radio stations, and he was going to talk about something fluffy. I don't remember what it was. Something was opening. There was a ribbon cutting or something along those lines. And I said, that's fine. I'll be happy to talk to him about that. But I'm also going to ask him this, that, and the other. And so they declined and said no. Now, I will say that since that time, while I never spoke to Harry Reid ever again, I did talk to Buddy Dyer. You guys know we talked to Buddy Dyer just late last year, and he answered every question we asked. So I appreciate that about Buddy Dyer, and I appreciate that at the time he was making the rounds. He wasn't ready for a big interview. He was just trying to promote something within the city. There's a time and a place, and it wasn't the right time and place for him, and it wasn't the right time and place for me. So we decided not to do the interview. But for her to do it, I'm a little bit empathetic because she's a young female in a young female of color in a white man's world, and I'm sure she didn't want to rock the boat too much, and she saw an opportunity to interview the President of the United States of America, kind of a big deal, and she agreed to do it. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app. Coming up in a moment here, why you should not take your child too seriously. If they come to you and say, Mom, Dad, I think I'm transgender. I think I'm binary. I think I want to change my pronouns. Why you should not take your teenagers too seriously when they do that. I'll have that story for you coming up. Stay with us here on The Joe Kelley Show.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Breaking news to lively debates, covering the issues that matter to you.
I make it a point to listen to Joe Kelley when I need to fully understand what's happening in the news.
Now, The Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's News and Talk, WDBO.
That's kind of weird. I've got a second story out of the Netherlands tonight. What are the odds that I have 2 stories from the Dutch?
There are only 2 things I can't stand in this world. People who are intolerant of other people's cultures and the Dutch.
What? Why didn't they make another sequel to that movie? Why didn't they make a fourth version of that movie? That just aggravates me. So out of the Netherlands, a long-term study in the Netherlands finds that the majority of gender-confused children grow out of that feeling by the time they are fully grown adults. Researchers in the Netherlands tracked more than 2,700 children from age 11 to their mid-20s, asking them every 3 years of feelings about their gender. Results showed at the start of the research, about 1 in 10 children, 11%, expressed gender non-contentedness to varying degrees. By the age of 25, just 1 in 25 said they often or sometimes were discontent with their gender. So the researchers concluded that the results of the current study might help adolescents to realize that it is normal to have some doubts about one's identity and one's gender identity during this age period, and that this is also relatively common. And yet, we have got society, we have got the left, we've got parents, we've got teachers who are encouraging children to cut off their genitals, to start radical drugs, to cut off their breasts, to wear different clothing that holds things down or tucks things away. I mean, do you think you're going to hear this story on the network news tonight? It's not going to fit. It's not going to be, but part of the agenda. This comes amid a massive boom in transgender children getting drugs and changing their gender in the U.S., as critics and doctors, parents, aren't challenging young people enough. Doctors are making money on this, man. Why would doctors challenge it? It's terrible. Absolutely. I was at a lacrosse game 2 nights ago. I was at a lacrosse game, and some high school, I presume they were high school kids, they were sitting behind me a few rows. This girl's dropping F-bombs right and left, and I didn't want to be that dad and turn around and say, "Oh, excuse me, young lady, could you stop cussing so much?" My number one rule is mind your own business. That's actually my slogan. Joe Kelley, minding his own business since the 1960s. But one of the kids was talking about his trans friend, and the girls were like, "What trans friend?" And the dude mentioned the trans friend, and I just think to myself, I mean, these kids don't know what they're talking about. When you're in high school, you think that high school is the alpha and the omega. It is everything. It's the beginning and the end. Everything revolves around high school. And even for a lot of people, after you graduate high school, you still reminisce about high school. You still think high school was the best years of your life. Then you get into college and you start thinking, you still have those unsure thoughts. It's crazy. And I wish more parents would step up and say, "Honey, you could be compassionate about it. You don't have to be a jerk about it. Honey, I understand you're feeling that way. And if you're still feeling that way when you're 25 or 30, then I'm going to help you through the process. But you're 12 years old. We're not going to do anything radical while you're 12 years old. 12-year-olds can't get tattoos because they're permanent. And yet we allow 12-year-olds to have gender transition surgeries. It is the definition of insanity. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. Join the conversation now by using the open mic in the WDBO app. Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's news and talk, WDBO.
You can listen to the Joe Kelley Show here on the radio, of course. You can listen to the Joe Kelley Show through the WDBO app. You can listen to the Joe Kelley Show through the Joe Kelley Show podcast. You can get that, of course, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the WDBO app, and so many other places. You can listen on your own time. You don't have to listen here between 5 and 7. You can listen as you go to bed at night. You can listen first thing when you wake up in the morning. You can listen to the Joe Kelley Show to your heart's content whenever the time is best for you. So just look for the Joe Kelley Show podcast. Give it a follow. Give it a like. Thank you very much.
Joe?
Yes.
The gross story was very, very lame.
Oh, I'm going to have to try harder. It seems, on the gross stories. They put them in blenders, okay? They set them on fire. Does that help? They put them in blenders and set them on fire. It's terrible. Human depravity. Can I ask you guys a personal question?
Sure.
Laurel, you just reported on the tax filing deadline, April 15th. Have y'all done y'all's taxes yet?
That's a sore subject.
Oh, really? Then let me pick on it. Let me ask again. Have you done your taxes yet?
No. I've been bugging my husband for months to set up an appointment with his tax guy.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know, the week he goes to do it, he's completely filled for the rest of the month.
Well, yeah, it's
Your
tax
wife
season.
told you months ago to do this.
Right.
So now we've already filed an extension, and I don't know, we can tax him our stuff, and he'll do it online for us, but... listen to your wives.
So what you're saying is that you're going to have a baby before the taxes are even done.
Yeah, there's a good chance that's going to happen.
Seems that way. So, okay, so hang on, let me ask, and again, sorry if I'm getting too personal here, but do you expect a return or do you expect to owe?
Okay, I honestly don't know.
Okay,
My husband made me believe we're expected to owe, I think.
To owe? Okay, well then, yeah, then delaying it actually makes better sense anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to pay him any sooner than you absolutely have to.
I do a lot of independent contractor work too, so I'm going to owe. I didn't.
Yeah.
You're taxes this year.
You're a gig worker. You're a 1099 guy, aren't you?
On some things, yeah. This is not all that I do. For this job, yeah, I'm salaried and that's no problem. But I do a lot of gig work, and
what you guys don't know is Paul is actually a professional tap dancer, and that is how he makes most of his money. And he is absolutely marvelous. I mean, he
dance
is
hall guy. That's me.
He is amazing. Greg Rhodes, what about you?
Oh yeah, we already filed and got our return back. We got money back, so we like that.
Yeah, I knew I was going to get a return. I knew I'd overpaid during the year, so we filed the second we were allowed to file.
Same.
On that day, so I've already got my return and it is already spent. so it is weird for me to hear people talking about their tax returns because or doing their taxes because that was so long ago. I mean, that seems like months and months ago when that happened. You guys know about Seattle, right? You've heard of Seattle, Washington?
It's up there somewhere, right?
It's up there in the great Pacific Northwest. I love Seattle. It's a beautiful city, except it's very, they're
wet.
Well, yeah, it's wet. The annual, they have a, what do they call it? The annual Rain Festival. It runs January 1st through December 31st every year. But unlike Central Florida, where it will get a bucket of rain in 5 minutes, it's just a light rain year round in Seattle. But
it's so green there.
It's lush and beautiful.
It's all green, beautiful.
That's why they call it the Emerald State or whatever, because it is. It's very green. It's lush. It's beautiful. Laurel won't be surprised at all, but I lived there when I was a kid. Seattle's a beautiful place, but it is very liberal. And Seattle public schools are now dismantling their gifted and talented program. They're getting rid of it because administrators argued it was oversaturated with white and Asian students. I don't know if you guys know this. If you don't ever go to the West Coast, you may not know this, but the West Coast of the United States has a pretty significant Asian population because it is just across the Pacific Ocean from Asian countries. Japan and China, the Koreas, they're just across the Pacific. So places like San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, they have a pretty good Asian population. So the district is phasing out what they call their highly capable cohort schools and classrooms due to what they say is racial inequities. The program will cease to exist by 2027, 2028, and they're going to have a new enrichment for all model available. One school official says the program is not going away. It's getting better. Yeah, it's getting better because they're getting rid of all the white kids. It'll be more, this is their words, it'll be more inclusive, equitable, and culturally sensitive. In particular, the school says, students who have been historically excluded will now have the same opportunities for services as every other student and get the support and enrichment they need to grow. I don't, for a moment, poo-poo the notion of students of color getting adequate or exceptional support. I think they should all get exceptional support. But to get rid of gifted and talented programs because it's oversaturated with white and Asian students, you know what that seems like to me? It seems racist. I feel that's racist. The enrichment program currently allows students who placed in the top 2% on standardized exams to be placed in the highly capable cohort program to receive enriched learning. So the kids who are truly excelling can be in accelerated classes. Doesn't that make sense? Isn't that a good idea? So that they're not slowed down, so that they can truly achieve their highest potential. The Seattle School Board voted in 2020 to terminate the program after a 2018 survey found that students in the highly capable cohort were 13% multiracial, 11% Asian, 3.7% Hispanic, and 1.6% Black. They were 70% white. First, I would suggest that the Black population in Seattle is probably lower than the Asian population in Seattle. But it's insulting. It's insulting to all of the students. This is like these schools that get rid of the valedictorian programs because they don't want to make other people feel bad. So they're getting rid of the gifted and talented programs in Seattle because they don't want to make other kids feel bad. It's not equitable. Forget about equal. Equal, it's no longer about it being equal. It has to be equitable. There's a difference. I'm Joe Kelley. Hit me up in the open mic in the WDBO app.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Talk and discussion on the latest breaking national news.
Crude oil prices continue to fall.
Local news.
You're not going to have Disney have its own government in Central Florida.
And stories that matter to you. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let your voice be heard on the Joe Kelley Show.
So Seattle Public Schools got rid of the gifted and talented program because they found that 70% of the students in the program were white. And 11 or 13% were multiracial, 11% were Asian, 3.7% Hispanic, and 1.6% Black. Our chief researcher, Greg Rhodes, looked this up, and according to the census, what is the racial makeup of Seattle?
Sure. So this is according to the 2022 census. White is 63.6% of the population in Seattle, Washington. 16.8% is Asian. 9.4 is two or more races. So talking about when you said the mixed multiracial. Hispanic is 7.5%, and Black or African American is 6.7%.
So again, not to minimize anybody's race or ethnicity, but you know, I feel it's important to keep it in proportion, and that Black students make up the smallest percentage of people who qualify for this class. It is also the smallest minority group in the city of Seattle. By the way, I just saw this job posting in St. Louis Park. They are hiring a school superintendent, and I was reading through some of the knowledge, skills, and abilities required for this job. This is for a school superintendent. Racially conscious and committed to equity work. Possesses a clear personal commitment to advancing racial equity and racial consciousness. They prioritize their own racial equity journey and set clear expectations for themselves and others in their pursuit of racial equity goals. They actively listen for both spoken and unspoken racial concerns, seek multiple racial perspectives, examine the presence and role of whiteness in systems and structures, and are open to feedback regarding their own racial blind spots. Finally, fosters joy and cultivates a culture of accountability for systemic racial equity transformation. I feel sorry for any kind of school principals, school teachers, if that's the bar that they set. That's an impossible bar, and I feel for them. I'm Joe Kelley. Thank you so much for being a part of the Joe Kelley Show. I don't know if y'all noticed, it's raining and such. Be careful driving tonight. We'll see you back here on the radio 5 till 7 tomorrow here on WDBO.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.